20,000 more questionnaires are being sent out on the future of Southend Airport after residents claimed they hadn't received them. The consultation on plans to expand the airport's also been extended until May the 15th. Councillor for Enterprise, Tourism and Regeneration John Lamb has been telling me they want to make sure everyone gets a chance to put their views.
We've heard many people saying they hadn't actually had a consultation paper come through. We're putting another delivery out to make sure, because it is important that we consult with our residents and we do get their views on it.
So does this mean that you might have to change some of the questionnaires that have been sent out, because obviously they'll say the old date on them?
No, it doesn't, because those comments are still valid. It's purely that the closing date has been extended, so in fact that we can get any of those comments back.
So there aren't any legal issues that are thrown up by changing?
No, none at all, because it's not even a statutory consultation. It's one additional consultation that we took on board because we said it is only right that our residents should be consulted fully.
My understanding is that this applies to Southend, but in Rochford it hasn't actually been extended. Can you shed any light on that?
Well, Rochford people seem to say, or there's not been a clamour that they haven't received their documents. And we know from the people that have delivered for us, they are saying they have delivered the whole borough, but people are still adamant they have not had one.
Is there any estimate for how many more of these questionnaires are going to have to be sent out? Is it a question of people who've complained, or are the whole areas that are going to be getting...
No, we will redo the area just in case, because we don't want any gaps. But certainly where we feel that people have said they haven't, those areas will be addressed first.
So how many more questionnaires would that mean?
I believe there's going to be a print run of about 20,000.
In terms of cost breakdown, how much will that add to the whole exercise?
I haven't got all the cost to it, but it's not much more. I mean, these are leaflets that are going out, and so therefore... But if we're going to consult properly, whilst, yes, we have got to monitor the costs and keep those in line, it's still very important that we make sure that people are properly consulted.
Some residents have raised concerns the local environment and infrastructure won't actually cope with a bigger airport. But what do the people running the current airport think? Managing Director Alistair Welch has been speaking to our news editor Nick Hull.
We are already doing work to develop and build the new railway station, and we hope to get that open in December this year. It's a tight programme, but that's our hope. And we're also progressing with plans for the new hotel, which we intend to open in 2010, and also the new passenger terminal, which follows probably the year after that. The local councils are supporting the principle of a runway extension, which will see about 200 or 300 metres put on the current runway, which would allow the newer, quieter, more fuel-efficient aircraft to use the airport.
A lot of people are worried about the extra noise and pollution, but you're saying newer, quieter aircraft will be able to use the airport if the runway is extended.
Specifically on noise, at the moment we're entitled to make over 900 flights a month at night. And what the council has said very clearly is if we were to extend the runway, we would need to dramatically reduce the noise that we're allowed to make at night. In addition to that, the modern aircraft we're talking about have much better climb performance than, for example, the Whisperjet that uses London City or Southend at the moment. So they are up in the air much quicker, they are much quieter, and they burn less fuel.
In terms of changes around the airport then and the consequences of expanding the runway, for instance, what impacts will that have?
Well, one thing we're conscious of at the moment is East Woodbury Lane, which essentially goes across the very end of the runway. That is closed whenever there are large aircraft or whenever there are passenger movements on the runway. As the airport gets busier, that road will be increasingly closed and will become an increasing issue. If the runway was extended, what's very clear is East Woodbury Lane would need to be diverted and not closed, and the diversion would have to ensure that East Woodbury Lane was diverted without going onto the 127, so it's taking traffic off the 127 rather than adding to it. And that's, I guess, the biggest single thing people would see.
And talking of traffic, a lot of people are worried as well about the increased number of vehicles that would use the airport. Obviously, if you're going to have an increase in passengers, there's a subsequent increase in vehicles using the airport, and also potentially cargo, freight, etc. as well.
Yeah, you're right, and a very valid concern. I guess, firstly, on the freight side, Southend's never going to be a big freight airport. The passenger traffic side of things, we would hope that in about 10-15 years' time, we're able to service about 2 million passengers a year. We would envisage that there would be, in the peak hour, about 240 passenger vehicle movements on the roads per hour. So that's less than 500 sort of car journeys per hour in total. That's about the size of a medium-sized supermarket. So yes, there will be an increase, but it's nothing like the sort of number some might think.
Are you confident that you can get 2 million passengers into the airport?
Yeah, I think that's one thing we're very, very clear on. People in South Essex, and particularly in our immediate area in Southend, have a very high propensity to fly. If we look at the people in Southend and Rochford alone, today there are 495,000 flights per year made by people who live in Southend and Rochford to Europe. If we add in Basildon and Castle Point, that's 1 million flights a year. So, today there are 1 million flights taken by people who live within 20 minutes of the airport that we have. So our aim is to have very much a local airport, giving people locally the routes they want to.